Welcome to Indie-Beacon-Radion, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag indie-beacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
And welcome to today's show. Hi, Carol. This is your host, b-alan-bourgeois. We have Carol Cook with us, who has been writing since her young age, and she has published her short stories in magazines and newspapers over the past 30 years, just about as long as I have. I thought you were much younger than me. She is the author of 5 books of human stories and a member of the Texas Association of Authors. We're glad you're here, Carol. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you very much. Good to be here.
You're more than welcome. Yes. So let's start with the basics. Tell us a little bit about what motivated you, what got you into writing.
Oh, I started writing in diaries and journals when I was a small, young teen. I kept up the writing. I even had several pen pals when I was young. And a couple of them were out of the country, and some of them were around the country. So I wrote for years to pen pals. They used to put that sort of thing in kids' magazines. And I wrote for church newsletters and bulletins, for schools, PTA newsletters. I just wrote a little bit of everything, even wrote up the programs for schools and churches and women's clubs, and then I started sending some of my things to magazines, and they actually printed them, and I think my first check was for $5. And then I was married to a career military man, so I wrote letters for 25 years of him being deployed at various times. And then I wrote to my family because I was always somewhere other than the area that I was born and raised. Then I wrote to my military friends that I had to leave behind for every transfer. Then I got pretty serious about writing when I was in my 30s and started sending out things to magazines. And I'd get published in various little magazines, nothing major. I once got into Family Circle. That was the biggest magazine I was ever in. And then I gave up writing for a while because I was trying to raise a family practically by myself because my military husband was always gone. And then I was very involved in all of their school activities and functions. And there wasn't enough time for me. There was always, as most moms know, something was always going on. And then I finally got something published and had an unpleasant experience with both the agent and the publisher and even getting paid for it. So I just put it aside for a few years and didn't go back to it again until the late 90s. So I've been writing ever since. And I just write fun, happy little short stories and don't write anything controversial, just fun stuff. And,
yes, and your titles of your books actually kind of show that, too. One of the titles is, Does This Sound Unusual? What Happened? You're Kidding. That Can't Be Right. I mean, each of those are different books. Of those, which was your first one that you wrote and enjoyed the most?
The one that was titled What Happened, because I wrote about such fun, silly things, and I said that it's about disturbances, absurdities, and follies that fill our life. That was the first book that got quite a bit of response because they said, how can you write about such things? And one of them was following directions. Glitter phobia. I hate glitter. And then I found out that a lot of other people do. So I wrote an article called Glitter Phobia, and it just got an enormous amount of response. And then I wrote what the airlines do to us. They torture us. And the title of that one was Think I'll Drive Next Time. And they're just fun things about what happens to us when strange things happen, like how they treat us when we try to fly, or what's going on our roadways. And then I wrote one called Nothing But the Truth, and it's just, why is everybody lying? And I wrote all the silly reasons that people lie, starting with a toddler who bites its sibling and then says they didn't bite them. So I said that, we've been lying for years. And then I wrote about some of the women's things that we fret and worry about, and one of them was called Wrinkle-Free and Crisis Center. And then I wrote about laziness. And I get some things out of newspapers that will be where somebody's been charged with something, and it's so ridiculously stupid that I take off on it with a funny attitude about how people behave. And I've written about complaint departments, our in-laws and outlaws, junk mail. So those are some of my fun, happy stories. And I've been told that people really enjoy them when they travel, because if they're at an airport, they can pick the book up and read one or two short stories and feel better, because they're usually, when you're flying, you're rushed or stressed or something crazy happens, and custom people are just notoriously grouchy. So I write things like that and put them into small books as a little collection of short stories. And then I've written several about food, and one of them was Honor Thy Moon Pie, and all of us have eaten a moon pie, and yet the nutritionist will tell us that they're toxic, and why in the world do we eat that terrible stuff? And so I do a fun little article on moon pies. And
okay.
So that's
real quickly, we're going to have to take a break in just a moment, but let people know where they can find your books, if you would.
I've got them on Amazon.com, and my newest one, which is the one that you mentioned, titled That Can't Be Right, should be there by the 1st of December, if not maybe the very last few days of November. If they want an autographed book, they can always contact me by email, and I certainly give the email out. It's on my business cards. It's in my books, and if you need that, I can certainly give that to you. It is my name. It's Carol B, as in boy, Cook, at Metro, METRO, 411.net. That's if they want an autographed book. Otherwise, Amazon.com is the best place to buy them.
Do you have a Twitter account or a Facebook page?
I am classified as computer illiterate, so I am having someone help me get those set up, and hope to get them set up by the first week in December. So I'm going to try that.
All righty. No problem. They've got your email address. We will step away for just a moment, do a couple of quick little sponsor commercials, and we'll be right back.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
Do you love to read great new ebooks? Visit ebg247.com. Be the first to discover the next bestseller. At ebg247, we have the web's largest selection of great new book reads, from that amazing new fiction or nonfiction to horror, romance, and fantasy. We even have today's best children's books. That's ebg247.com. New books arrive daily, and all ebooks start at just 99 cents. If you love to read, then you'll love ebg247.com. Low prices, large selection, and an easy-to-use website. It's all only at ebg247.com.
Howdy, I'm John Cruder, the Midnight Marauder. I guess you might say that I'm a vigilante who rights the wrongs I see along my many travels to balance the scales of justice, especially those of the corrupt and murderous members of the Town Council of Bandera, Texas. You can follow my many adventures in a series of Midnight Marauder books written by Roy Clinton on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com. Or, if you prefer, listen to my adventures in audiobook form by downloading them from Audible.com or iTunes. This is R. William James, the voice of the Midnight Marauder.
A new online bookstore, indie-lector.store, is unlike any other. indie-lector.store offers great prices from top indie authors and supports authors at the same time by paying them more for their books. indie-lector.store has a readers club that gives you free books and special deals. Watch the indie-lector.store continue to grow before it opens in the fall of 2019 at indie-lector.store. Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag indie-beacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
And we're back with Carol Cook and talking about her collection of short stories and various books of short stories. That is, the newest one is That Can't Be Right, Irrelevant Observations Full of Possible Notions for Coping with Life. Welcome back, Carol. If you could, please give me an example of one of those.
One of them that's in my book. I wrote about... Well, the title of it is called What's Up, W-A-T-T-S, not what, W-H-A-T, but I wrote about light bulbs. I've heard nothing but complaints about buying a light bulb today and had the experience myself when a refrigerator light burned out. So I took off on the absurdity of what we have to deal with buying a light bulb and went through the whole scenario of what you experience when you go to a store, even to talk to a quote, lighting specialist in the store to find the right light bulb, and go on and on about what you have to go through to purchase the right bulb. And then when you do, I say if you didn't get the right wattage, or if you didn't do this or that, your light bulb might explode. And then I say when you get your electric bill, you wonder if you have spent enough wattage to have lit up the solar system. So it's kind of a grouchy takeoff on what we have to deal with just to buy a light bulb. And then another one was our titled Forget About It. And then I wrote about all the stuff that we forget. And that it's actually good to forget because there's some things you don't want to remember, like the apartment that you rented when you were young and the orange carpeting that you put in your home in the 70s and some of the people that you associated with you wouldn't even want to be friends with now, or some of the silly things you did, or the lost deals that you didn't make, like buying a house for cheap and then reselling it and making a ton of money, or not buying a particular stock So I wrote about all the things you'd like to forget, and of course, some of them are some of the crazy people that we've dealt with in our workplace or where we volunteered to do something, or at church even. We find strange and odd people we'd like to forget about. So I did a fun takeoff on that. And then one that I got a great deal of response on is in this book, and it's Can You Read the Small Print? And it's about when we get to a certain age, we need reading glasses because we can't see a thing, including how to read the instructions on our prescription medication. And we can't read instructions on anything we buy because it's in such minuscule print. We've got to have glasses. Then when you go to the store to buy something, you can't read the ingredients without your glasses. So I do a fun takeoff on the woes of having to constantly find your reading glasses and use them to do everything. And then there's another one called The Great Flush. And it's the ordeal, again, of going out to buy something today that you haven't bought in quite some time, and that's to buy a new toilet for your home, because our toilets don't last forever. They leak, they break down, and what the government makes us do now just to buy a toilet, we have to buy the low-flow toilet that only uses 1.6 gallons of water. And somebody said, why on earth would you write about a toilet? And I said, because it's funny when you actually have to deal with something like that. So I've gotten a lot of response from things like that. And then another one that's in there is titled Twist and Shout. And it's, why do manufacturers put the lid on everything that we cannot get off, or seal it up in such a unbelievable packaging that we have to take a box knife to get out either batteries or even a package of ham? So I do that one. And so some of my things are grouchy complaining in a fun way that is about things that we do every day or deal with every day. And
we're coming up on Thanksgiving is coming up pretty soon. Do you have a lot of stories that you've gotten from that time, the holidays in general?
I did one in the book, Does This Sound Unusual, titled Aluminum Foil Crisis. And this is the season that we use a lot of aluminum foil, but with what the survey people have, and I am always criticizing survey takers, I write about what they've done to our aluminum foil. They say that it's slowly killing us, making us sick, and we shouldn't be using it. And I said, well, how in the world are we going to roast a turkey or bake a potato without aluminum foil? And that got quite a bit of response, because it actually appeared in a local paper, and I had 23 emails, 16 phone calls, and 4 letters telling me that it was one of the funniest things they'd ever read about aluminum foil, because I ended it with, thank goodness I no longer have to use it on my TV antennas. But, so, and
well,
I, of course, right.
It's definitely clear that
you
get. Yeah, and it's definitely clear you do get a lot of insights from just everyday life, things that continuously go on, and find the humor in just about anything, it seems like. So I'm sure you've got some more books in the works that you're thinking about doing, right?
Yes, I've started compiling some more stories, and I may get out another one next year. Although it's a lot of work, and people don't realize the work that goes into putting together a book and getting it edited, and then finally getting it to the publisher, and then getting it out there to promote it. And this is probably the first book that I've ever really attempted to do very much promotion on. And thank goodness I have the Texas authors, because it's probably the best thing I've ever done to help me with my writing. So I thank you and bless you for doing what you do. Then I just go ahead.
Have you thought about doing your own audiobooks?
No, I talked to the people at the Texas Authors Conference this summer, and I just don't feel that I could do it myself, but I would certainly consider hiring a company, and I did meet some people at that conference that do that. I would just have to have an awful lot of time to coordinate it and then get it to them and have someone else read it, because I don't have a very forceful sounding voice, and which is strange, because people said, how could you work in theater for so many years, which I did many years ago, but I was behind the scenes. I was not one of the people out there performing or doing the work that people who bring us great plays and musicals and film do. I was one of the people that worked behind the scenes and in the office, but I was around the film industry, and so there are many people who have a much better voice and are certainly more talented than I to do an audio book. But I've considered it.
We have just about a minute left, and I wanted to see if you had any words of encouragement for somebody who wants to write their own short story collections or anything of that nature.
I advise it. As a matter of fact, I've spoken to several book clubs, and I tell people, write. Even if it's just to write your own story, your own memoir, because you have something to leave behind for your children and your grandchildren. And I have certainly enjoyed writing, and all the people that I know that are writers are usually happy people. So I just really encourage people to write. It's just good for your heart, good for your soul, and you can leave something behind when you're no longer here on earth.
Great. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. I thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing your new book coming out soon.
Thank you very much for your time.
Headlines. Cryptocurrency vultures are circling around failing governments. Darknet predators are rushing to market with their newest digital product. They promise economic salvation, even as they coupon clip straight from your digital wallet. The newest techno-thriller installment from Breakfield and Berkey, The Enigma Source. Book 10 of the Enigma series continues the combat of cyber good guys versus cyber thugs set in today's digital landscape. Texas Authors is proud to be a supporter of indie-beacon.com, a website that supports indie authors from around the world. If you are looking for help with marketing or getting published, indie-beacon.com can assist you. Years of experience by the founder is available to any indie author looking for help. indie-beacon.com, a place for creative souls to find help in marketing their creations.
Have you ever thought what you would do if you had to put your life on hold to parent your parents? Charlotte Cannon has lived the journey caring for 3 parents with dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. Her book, You Have to Laugh to Keep From Crying, How to Parent Your Parents, is a survival guide for adult children caring for aging seniors. The book is available at books.txauthors.com, Amazon, or your favorite bookstore.
Hello, Texas authors. My name is Randy James, coming to you from my Carrollton recording studio, where I spend time writing and producing commercials for my radio endorsement clients, as well as my private freelance clients. I'd like the opportunity to help you sell more books with a commercial like this and get listeners of Dear Texas Radio excited about your title, all at a special introductory price. Available to members of the Texas Association of Authors. Call or text 214-762-1942. That's 214-762-1942. Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indie-beacon.com.